How far would you go to prove your love? Khaled has been rejected 8 times by the father of the woman he loves. But instead of giving up, he's about to do something no one saw coming. He's descending into an ancient haunted tunnel that no one has ever returned from alive. All to prove he's worthy of her love. Will this be the heroic act that finally wins her heart? Or will it lead him to a fate worse than rejection? What he finds down there will change everything. Our story begins in modern times, specifically in 2009, and takes place in Egypt, the land of magic and legends, when an adventurous young man discovers a magical tunnel connecting our world with an unknown world, a world about which we know nothing, a world where everything has changed, and the only connection between it and our world is the ancient tunnels. All we know about it comes from the tales of fiction. One day, Khaled was sitting, thinking about the girl he loved, and he said, "They say love is blind, and here it has blinded me when I fell in love." But what can he do? He fell in love, and what happened, happened. And here he is, sitting every day in his room to write again. I am Khaled Hosni, 28 years old, a graduate of the Faculty of Commerce for 6 years, from Egypt, and today my marriage proposal to the girl I love was rejected for the 8th time, for the same reason. Then he looked at the wall and hung the paper next to 7 other sheets, symbolizing all the previous attempts, written in the same style, overshadowed by sadness and failure. Afterward, he leaned back, looking up, and his memories took him back to 6 years ago when he was in his final year at university. Fate had it that he met Mona, a girl from his hometown, by chance on their way from the village to the university. His joy increased when he learned that she was studying in the same faculty, in her first year at university. From that day, their meetings became frequent, whether intentionally or unintentionally, until he snapped out of his memories, exhaling deeply as he looked at a large sheet of paper hung on the wall below the 8 sheets on which he had written, "Rejected for the same reason. Mona's crazy father." Whenever Khaled heard the word crazy, he always remembered Mona's father. Not only Khaled, but everyone in the village knew about his madness. However, Khaled knew his madness better than anyone else. Since he finished his studies and decided to propose to Mona, he was shocked during the first visit when Mona's father looked at him strangely and with disdain, saying,
"You want to marry Mona? What have you done in your life that makes you special enough to marry her?"
Khaled's face turned red and he stammered as he didn't expect the question, replying, "What have I done in my life? The truth is, I graduated from the Faculty of Commerce. You know that my parents died when I was young and I live with my grandfather. Currently, I'm looking for a suitable job to help me get married and settle down." Mona's father interrupted him, saying,
"You're just like other young men. How are you different? I don't have a daughter to marry off to you."
And he ended the meeting with rejection. Khaled thought at that time that the reason for his first rejection was his financial inability and the lack of a job, but he was sure that the reason might be something entirely different when he found a job and went to propose to Mona again, only to be rejected for the second time, with the same question from her father. What have you done in your life? How are you different from others? This question left him without a satisfactory answer, even after the 8th time he proposed. Her father did not consider Khaled's decency or noble intentions, nor did he take into account his pure love for his daughter or her love for him. Until finally, Khaled couldn't take it anymore and shouted at him, "I haven't done anything legendary that would make me a superhero for your daughter. I know you fought in the army. Do you want a superhero for your daughter? Tell me what to do. Tell me what would make me Hercules in your eyes." Then he looked at him, with eyes burning like lava, and angrily said, "I will marry Mona. I will marry her. Even if it's against your will, I will marry her." The entire village knew about this man's strange ways. He wanted to marry his only daughter to a man who was unique. What kind of uniqueness? No one knew. Everyone was aware that her fate was inevitable spinsterhood as long as her father was who he was. Yet Khaled's heart did not give up, and his mind was fixated only on what would make him unique enough to deserve Mona, just as her father wanted. But what was that? He did not know. So he felt sadness and found nothing better than to pray to God to take her father. Even though Khaled was known for his humor and joyful spirit, his love for Mona and her father's constant refusal made sadness a permanent veil over his face, until his 80-year-old grandfather noticed his deep sadness, approached him and asked,
"Why are you sad? You're supposed to be used to this by now."
Khaled replied, "I can't imagine seeing her with someone else, and I don't know what her father wants. Miracles don't happen anymore."
"And will you just sit here by my side, resting your head on your hands? You might as well bury yourself in a tunnel instead."
Khalid's eyes suddenly brightened as if he remembered something. "Grandfather, do you remember when I was young and whenever I cried, you would tell me the story of the tunnel under our village and that you went down there more than 50 years ago?" The grandfather replied,
"Ah, those were days long gone. We were 4 young men who loved adventure. We had heard many stories about a treasure hidden in a basement under our town. A basement that was once a large storage place for the wealthy during times of invasion. Everyone knew that the basement existed, but no one dared to go down there because it was said to be haunted by spirits, and anyone who went down never came back. But we didn't care about all that talk and decided we had to go down. We knew that the entrance to the basement was in an abandoned house in the town, and that a large rock was blocking the door. One night, we gathered our courage, went to the house in secret, and with great effort, we managed to move the rock and began to descend one by one, each of us carrying an oil lamp. After descending a long staircase, we found ourselves in a tunnel. We took a few steps into the tunnel until we could barely breathe. Suddenly, all the oil lamps went out at the same time, and one of us screamed, "A ghost! A ghost!" Then each of us was overcome with fear, and we ran back out, bumping into each other out of sheer terror. Since then, no one has dared to go down there again.
Khaled laughed and said, "But it will always be a good memory. At least you weren't afraid to go down even if you did run away." His grandfather jokingly replied,
"Don't tell anyone about our escape."
Afterward, Khaled returned to his room and tried to sleep, but he couldn't close his eyes. He kept thinking about what his grandfather had told him. He knew that what he heard sounded like a legend, but the basement was real, and his grandfather never lied. Then he suddenly looked at the paper that explained the reason Mona's father had rejected him. He wanted someone unique, someone who would satisfy his madness and arrogance. He told himself that he would either marry Mona or not marry at all. Then he raised his voice. "Why not go down to the basement? What if there really is a treasure down there?" Then he fell silent, talking to himself as if another person was speaking to him. "What treasure? That's crazy talk. Don't forget that the basement is haunted by spirits and ghosts." But he quickly countered, "If you find that treasure, you'll be the most famous person in Egypt, no, in the whole world. And if you don't find it, at least you tried." He then jumped out of bed, took out a picture of Mona, and looked at it, saying, "I'm going down to that basement. I'll go down no matter what happens. If your father is mad, then I am madness itself." Khaled thought he was talking to himself alone, unaware that someone was listening to his loud monologue outside the room. His grandfather stood by the door yet showed no sign of surprise, as if he had expected this to happen. He remained standing until Khaled fell silent, and didn't move from his place until his grandson had fallen asleep. Then, he went to his room and took out an old wooden box. From it, he pulled out an old photo album covered in dust. After brushing off the dust, he began flipping through the pages one after another, until he stopped at one particular photo, recalling memories of the old days. The next day, both Khaled and his grandfather woke up early as usual. Khaled had his early job, and his grandfather never slept after the dawn prayer, always reading the Quran until Khaled got up so they could have breakfast together. Khaled sat, occasionally glancing at his grandfather as if he wanted to tell him something. Finally, he broke his silence and asked his grandfather, Abdo, as he liked to call him, "Can you live alone?" His grandfather looked at him, pretending not to understand the question.
"You want to travel, don't you? Why are you lying, Khaled? Why don't you want to tell me that you want to go down to the cellar?"
These words struck Khaled like a bolt of lightning. He didn't know how his grandfather had figured out his intentions. He looked at him, flustered. "Cellar? How did you know? I mean, what cellar? What nonsense?" His grandfather continued,
"I've known for a long time, a very long time."
Then he ordered him to sit down again and asked him seriously,
"Why do you want to go down to the cellar?"
Khaled tried to dodge the question. "Why are you so fixated on this cellar story?" "I'm telling you, I'm going to travel." His grandfather repeated the question.
"Khaled, Why do you want to go down to the cellar?
With no other choice, Khaled let out a long sigh and answered, I want to go down to prove to Mona and her father that I'm a hero, that I'm different from the rest. His grandfather asked,
Is that the only reason?
Yes, just for that reason. And who knows, maybe I'll find the treasure you all went down there for before. His grandfather replied,
You don't want to go down for that reason. What if Mona married someone else? Would you still want to go down to the cellar?
Khaled fell silent and his grandfather continued,
You don't want to go down for Mona? You want to go down for the same reason that drove me and others down there. The reason that runs in all our blood. The love of the unknown. The love of rebellion. The love of discovery. And the love of being different. Mona's father has rejected you many times, and you know why. Why are you trying to be a hero this time? When I used to tell you stories about the cellar, I knew the day would come when I'd have to tell you about it again, and you'd decide to go down. That day came yesterday, and what happened to you was the same thing that happened to your father when I told him about the cellar. But the only difference is that I knew you would go down, while your father left suddenly and took your mother with him. They thought it would be a short trip, and they'd return, which is why they left you with me when you were just 2 years old. They said they'd be back in a few days, but the days turned into years, and they never came back. Everyone thinks they died in an accident and that you're the only survivor, but the truth is, they went down to the cellar. I was never upset with them because I too went down and survived by a miracle. I wouldn't be upset with you if you wanted to go down. When you truly decide you want to go down, tell me, Khaled, because there's a lot you need to know about the Forex cellar.
After that, Khaled left the house, but instead of going to work as usual, he went to meet Mona. She had called him on the way, and he was thinking about his grandfather's words, the cellar, and the real reason he wanted to go down. He also recalled memories of his parents whom he had never seen, and not even a single picture of them, and how people would say he resembled them in many ways. When he arrived, he found Mona with an expressionless face, unlike her usual smile. He asked her, "What's wrong, Mona?" She replied,
I'm sorry about what my father did to you for the 8th time.
He laughed and said, "Oh, I'm used to it by now. I'm practically infamous in the town. People say I broke the record for being rejected by your father for marriage, that I should be in the Guinness Book of World Records." He said these words to cheer her up, but it was in vain. She continued,
I used to think like you, that my father wanted someone different, but unfortunately my father has changed suddenly.
Khaled was surprised. "What do you mean he changed?" She answered,
A doctor proposed to my father to marry me, and I was sure my father would reject him, but to my surprise he agreed.
He shouted, "What, agreed?"
Yes, he agreed and insists that I marry him.
A few tears fell as Khaled drifted into thought. What about me?
I tried to talk to him about my love for you, but he slapped me and said he knows what's best for me, that my future is secure with the doctor, and that I'd suffer if I married you.
Khaled spoke truthfully. What does this madman want? He doesn't want someone special, he wants anyone but Khaled. So what should I do now that years of love have gone down the drain? He felt that the blame was on her for giving up, and his mind raced with questions and doubts that he couldn't answer, until she asked him to leave so she wouldn't be late, as if she was avoiding meeting him. He smiled sarcastically as he bid her farewell, letting her go alone for the first time. He was overwhelmed by a sense of defeat and disappointment for the first time. He remembered how much he had sacrificed for her and endured all hardships, and now, unfortunately, they were parting ways forever. Their love had melted away like ice in the morning sun. Afterward, he called his boss and resigned, then returned home, dragging his disappointment. He entered his room where the 8 papers were and began tearing them all up, laughing with bitterness and madness. Then he went to his grandfather and said, "I've decided to go down to the cellar. Mona is gone, my job is gone, and I must go down." He continued, "I need to find something in my life that I can pass on to my son after me. I want to feel, just once, that I'm a hero in my own eyes. This feeling of failure is killing me. I used to be afraid of leaving you alone, but as long as you encourage me, I will go down." His grandfather smiled and said,
All right, my son, I knew you'd go down to the cellar, and that's why I've prepared a surprise for you.
Then an old man entered, a friend of his grandfather, the cellar crazy Mustafa. Khaled's grandfather left them alone to talk. Mustafa said to Khaled.
The cellar is called the Forik Cellar, and if you search for it anywhere, you won't find any information. People think that your grandfather and I are crazy. They don't believe that we went down to the cellar. But they're right. We didn't actually go down to the Forik Cellar. The tunnel we went down was just a path leading to the cellar, which is at a considerable depth. The gas lamps went out due to the lack of oxygen, nothing more, and our imaginations conjured up the story about the demon. After that, time and illness took their toll on me and I couldn't go down again.
He handed Khaled an old book, in poor condition due to its age, with only 10 intact pages. The book talked about Forik, one of the wealthy Mamluks who ruled the area where Khaled currently lives. Forik ordered the cellar to be dug as a refuge from the threat of invasion, and it took 15 years to build. Many treasures were stored there. The author also described his journey to the cellar and the tunnel, which has no ventilation and must be crossed quickly to reach the real stairs to the cellar, which extend 30 meters underground. Once there, ventilation and oxygen are no longer an issue, and when the moon is full, the cellar is naturally lit by its light, a testament to the brilliance of past engineers. The last 10 pages ended with the author writing, "I thought the treasure was the wealth stored in the cellar, but I discovered something much more valuable, and even greater than Forik's treasures. I discovered," and the pages ended without completing the sentence. What could the author have discovered? Mustafa told him,
If you want to discover what the author found, you need to be in the cellar tonight because the moon is full and the cellar will be illuminated.
Khaled paused for a moment, then looked at him and said, "I'm ready to go down. This is the opportunity of a lifetime, and I must seize it." As the sun began to set, he climbed to the top of his house and looked at his town, gazing at its farmlands, tall trees, and the birds adorning them. He looked at the neighboring houses as if seeing them for the last time, breathed in the fragrant air of his homeland, and spoke to it. "This might be my last day here. I hope it's not." Then he returned to his room to finish preparing for his journey. Khaled didn't want anyone to see him heading toward the house with the cellar, so he waited until 1 in the morning. He bid farewell to his grandfather, saying, "I'll come back to you, Grandpa." Then his grandfather showed him a picture in an album and said,
This is a picture of your father and mother before they left me. I've been waiting for this moment for a long time to show it to you.
He hugged him with tears in his eyes, and Khaled reassured him, saying, "I'll come back to you, Abdo. I'll come back." Afterward, he set off for the cellar, carrying a bag with food, a flashlight, the old book, some papers, pens, and his phone. He finally arrived at the abandoned house and headed toward the old rock. With great difficulty and after many attempts, he managed to move it, revealing the iron door of the tunnel. He began his journey into the cellar, but suddenly, the iron door slammed shut, and the tunnel became completely dark. Khaled continued forward, removing cobwebs while holding the flashlight. He went deeper and deeper, feeling suffocated as he couldn't see the end of the tunnel. He ran like a madman, unable to find any exit. If he thought of turning back, he would surely suffocate before reaching the entrance. Then Khaled fell, overcome by despair and exhaustion, but he saw some light and wooden planks a few meters away. He was certain it was a door. Khaled crawled toward the door, his breath nearly failing him. His eyes were fixed on the door, and he tried to reach out to it, but his hand couldn't touch it, as if it had given up. Then he let out a powerful scream, gathering what strength he had left, and hurled himself at the door like a rock crashing into an ancient wooden door, breaking its weakened planks. He burst through, falling onto a wooden staircase with his eyes closed, rolling down like a ball, tumbling down the steps, unable to control his body at all. He hit the sides now and then, tumbling more and more until his fall slowed and finally stopped. He opened his eyes to find himself in a completely different place. The air returned and the place was fully illuminated. Khaled shouted, "I'm finally in the crypt of Farik. I'm in the crypt of Farik." Khaled descended the rest of the stairs and found himself in a much larger tunnel. He began taking notes on the decorations and beauty around him. The lighting started to gradually dim, but Khaled continued forward, paying no attention to it. Then he saw a large picture of someone, seemingly Farik, and took a photo of it with his phone. Suddenly, he felt a violent tremor and looked back to see the walls of the crypt collapsing. The crypt was about to collapse on him. Khaled gathered all his energy and ran as fast as he could. Unfortunately, his bag fell, but he kept running until he reached a crossroads. One path was collapsing as if the crypt was guiding him somewhere. He found himself at an incline with the collapse still behind him. He fell into a pit and kept running inside it until he emerged from an opening in the ground, which then completely collapsed and closed. His joy at surviving was short-lived as he found himself in a boundless desert, a barren wasteland with no water or food. Suddenly, he saw two people running away from him. Khaled approached them, noticing their sickly appearance, and asked, "Where are we?" The two responded in classical Arabic.
"We are poor and have fled to the desert."
Khaled was surprised by their dialect and gave them some money. The man took the money and ate it, further baffling Khaled. They seemed to consider money nothing more than paper. One of them said,
"It seems you are generous, wealthy, and strong. We'll tell you, we are fleeing from the land of Zicola and will never return there."
They then directed him to its location. Khaled saw a beautiful and enchanting city, wondering why they were fleeing from it. They replied,
"The rich like you don't care. We've seen hell in that town."
He found the road leading to the city, with carriages passing by. The road seemed short, but it was incredibly long. The more he walked, the further he realized he still had to go. Whenever he tried to stop a carriage to give him a ride, they refused. When he offered money, they threw it back at him, bewildered. Khaled couldn't understand anything until he noticed a young man clinging to the back of a carriage, signaling Khaled to do the same. They clung to the back of the carriage until they reached the city gates. A massive wall surrounded the city, and its gates were wide open. Khaled thanked the young man, who was puzzled by his dialect and attire. They got to know each other. The young man's name was Yaman, from the land of Zikola. He didn't recognize Khaled's village, Egypt, or even Africa. If Khaled's suspicions were correct, he was in a completely different world, entirely unrelated to his own. Khaled advanced towards the city, and as soon as he passed through its gates, he felt a strong shiver and intense pain in his head, nearly overwhelming him. The pain persisted for minutes, and then gradually faded as if nothing had happened. Khaled walked through the city, marveling at everything: the people's diverse and varied clothing, the beautiful buildings, and the exquisite architecture, as if it were a land of dreams. He then entered a restaurant and ate until he was full, but he didn't pay a single cent. The restaurant owner thanked him and called him wealthy, not taking anything from him. He then bought himself a new outfit that made him look like a city dweller, and the same thing happened again. He noticed something strange. All the shops had numbers and units that he didn't understand. Night fell, and the city was brilliantly illuminated by fire in a manner of unparalleled engineering, as if it were lit by electricity in our real world. Khaled learned from one of the young men that there would be a grand celebration tomorrow, attended by everyone, including guests from all the cities. It was the celebration of Zikola Day, the most famous day in the most famous city in history. Everyone would be happy, except one, the poorest person in the city, who would be Zikola's sacrifice. So what will this celebration be? Who is the sacrifice? Could it be Khaled? If not, how will his life be in this strange city? Will he be able to return to his grandfather and his only love, or will he be trapped in this world forever? Stay tuned for the second part of The Land of Zicola. Don't forget to share the video with a friend, subscribe to the channel, and tell us your thoughts on the story in the comments.